You're with Julian on the Brown Note, and why the Queensland elections were great news for Anthony Albanese, but not such great news for the people of Queensland. After Labor had a near record tenure of 10 years in office, they were, like so many Labor governments, knocked out for not really any good reason. But of course, the Premier stepping down and a new person stepping in seemed to be the main catalyst for that. And obviously, the Liberal Party won something finally. So this is obviously good news. Well, not so fast. They actually massively underperformed at the polls in relation to what they actually won. From the ABC a couple of days ago, it was supposed to be over so quickly last night. And this is referring back to election night on Saturday. Somewhere in the past fortnight, Queensland has changed the script. If someone was expecting me to call the election by now, all I can say is it's not part of my plan, said the ABC's election guru Anthony Green. It was, of course, a reference to the oft-repeated line of the Liberal National Party leader David Christoforley in response to the question of the LNP's position on abortion and whether he would allow a conscience vote. The issue is a primary reason for the remarkable fall in support for the LNP, which is expected to form government only just. I think they've won 50 seats now, so they have got a few seats over the line, but it's still nowhere near the enormous landslide that was predicted for them. When this campaign began on October 1st, pundits were confidently predicting they would march into office with a double-digit majority. What was perhaps more remarkable than this last-minute turnaround in the vote was the LNP's inability to see beyond its own inflexible rhetoric on the topic of abortion. The polling in most modern elections has seemingly favoured the right wing. So I've said that I've called elections, and we'll find out in a couple of weeks how that track record goes for 8 years without getting one wrong. I called it for Albanese probably over a month out, and that's online, where I said that they were going to win. The polling seems to favour the right an awful lot. Even in America, for the last few years, the Democrats have outperformed polls in relation to the Republicans, who have underperformed at polls. I don't know where this is coming from, other than the fact that they're all selling product. Both the news media and polling companies are selling a product. But if the relationship between the polling that was pro-Liberal and the outcome, which was less pro-Liberal, was extrapolated to the federal election next year, Albanese's walked it. He doesn't have anything to worry about if the same scenario, and given Queensland is not Melbourne, it's not exactly a Labor heartland, then they don't really have anything to worry about there. And this is at the worst part of the cycle as well. This is at the point where the public would be most punitive towards Labor, because it is likely that we will see a number of interest rate reductions between now and the federal election. There hasn't been a reason not to start reducing interest rates for some time. America's already done so a month ago, and no one really understands why the RBA isn't. The inflation rate, which was given as a reason for that. Did you see my chair go down? The reason for the interest rate hikes was inflation, which has gone down and been stable and not gone up for well over a year now. So this is the worst part of the election cycle for Albanese. So he's going to be looking at this thinking, well, that's pretty much on track. The problem for the people involved is the electorate of Queensland. So because the LNP didn't get across the line with such a crushing majority that they expected, the run-up to the election was dominated by the hard right, the populist right, and the Christian right, which are very different from the Christian voters. The Christian right tend to have an extreme ideology when it comes to social issues and cultural Marxism, or whatever they've been taught by Sky News at night is the current term to use. So these people are going to come cap in hand. So one of the dominant issues in the lead up to the election was whether or not the LNP would hold a conscience vote on abortion, which they wanted to run away from as much as possible. And the problem was they had a number of Liberal National Party members who were very much attending rallies for these populist right-wing Christian groups about being anti-abortion and being anti-euthanasia and all of the social issues that come along with it, which they tried their hardest to downplay in the run-up to the election. Bob Katter, bless his soul, has said that he will table a motion to restrict abortion rights as soon as the election's over. So without that massive mandate that they expected, these people are going to come cap in hand for their piece of silver. And they will be asking for these conscience votes. And we know that the federal level of the Liberal Party has a lot of these people embedded in it who are very dominant. Even if they're in a minority, they seem to hold the strings of what's happening in the party. And they seem very able to dictate policy. So that is very much on the horizon. I predict that they will be very much pushing loudly in the media for these conscience votes on issues like abortion very quickly. Queensland has woken up to 40 years ago. And he's already backtracking on, he said that he would resign if the Queensland crime rates don't go down, and within 24 hours of being declared the victor, he said that he won't. So I think that that's going to be an issue for Queensland going forward, and that's going to potentially cause an immediate backlash against that government.